Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is March 2nd, 2023. It is 6:30 p.m. The prayer on Tuesday night will be with Alderwoman Haas. Pledge of Allegiance will be with Alderman Waldron. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from the February 7th public hearing and February 7th regular meeting. First up, we've got presentations. Fire Department.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to come on a night when you can promote somebody to reward their hard work and diligence, the things that they've strived for. Tonight we're going to promote one engineer or driver. It'll be Mr. Ernest Smith, or Ernie. His mom, Annette, will be pinning him. Ernie's been with the fire department for a little over 5 years now. He holds a certification in the state of Tennessee for apparatus operator, engine and aerial apparatus operators, and is currently enrolled in an EMT and advanced EMT school. It is my pleasure, Mom, to promote Ernest Smith to the rank of, give me that one. You can't have that no more.
Recycle.
Promoted to the rank of engineer, Ernie Smith.
Good job, Bert.
You hug your mom. Mom, you want to get a picture? Did you, Ann?
Next, we're going to have the natural gas safety. Mr. Bert, would you please come up and
Thank
introduce
you, Mayor.
yourself?
It's good to see y'all again. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Bert Meece. I'm the coordinator of safety and compliance for the Smyrna Natural Gas Utilities Department. We are proud to say that we not only provide natural gas to the residents of Smyrna, but also to the residents of Laverne. Off the top of my head, I think we may have as many as 2,000 customers now within Laverne. And we really appreciate them. They are all residential. They're not all residential. We have a mix of residential, commercial, and of course industrial. So we're grateful to have that customer base and really appreciate you all listening to this presentation here because it's an opportunity to speak to our elected officials. But one of the great things is municipal governments, and we have the same thing in Smyrna, have their own cable channel. So it allows us to get this message out to the residents of the community as well. And I have shortened my presentation since the last 3 years ago, I was here 3 years ago. So we'll try to make it short and sweet and right to the point this time. That's our lovely building. Some facts about us. We are now up to 296 miles of main line. That is just the lines that you see running down the road and so forth. That doesn't count the lines going into your yards and your businesses. We have almost 12,000 customers within our customer base. 80% of our system is what's called polyethylene pipe, which is good. It means it's not likely to corrode. 92% of our customers are served by that polyethylene pipe. In 2021, we had 12 hits to our system. A hit is basically if somebody has broken the pipe and the natural gas is leaking, okay? And when you think of a hit, the first thing you think of course, is a contractor, big bad backhoe, somebody did that. The fact of the matter is we had a call out just the other night. It wasn't a backhoe, it was an individual using a hand tool, and that can happen as well. Now, you got to put some force behind it, but this gentleman was determined he was going to get past whatever barrier was in his way. So a hit can either be a contractor, it can be a resident, it can be outside forces. We'll talk about some of those things in a little bit. But that 12 hits was out of 16,035 excavation tickets, meaning those individuals had called Tennessee 811 as they should before they dug. which meant that our rate was at 0.75, well below the national average and well below the state average. And we just tallied our hits for 2022 and our excavation tickets, and again, we stayed well below the state average and the national average. And that is due to our staff and y'all's staff and individuals keeping an eye out for somebody who's not doing the right thing. All right, so as I said, I shortened it up a little bit this year. How do I, what should I, and what if? We're going to cover those three topics. On the bottom there, you see that we have been the winner of the Silver Level SOAR Award. And that is Systems Operational something or another, forgive me, from the American Public Gas Association. We just turned in our application for 2022, and we hope to go for the gold, as they say. So we're always trying to improve. How do I? How do I avoid an unintentional release of natural gas or an ignition? Well, the first thing is just what I said. Call Tennessee 811. If you anticipate breaking the ground in any shape, form, or fashion, call 811. They'll ask you some questions about where the work is going to be done. You'll mark the area in white paint. All of the utilities in that area will come out and mark their utilities, not just gas. Gas, water, sewer, cable, electric. We all have a certain time frame within which we have to come out and mark those utilities. Inspect and service regularly your appliances, your natural gas logs, your gas stove, your water heater. We get an awful lot of odor calls because of inside appliances. If you have those things serviced, you're not as likely to have an issue with those respective things. How to recognize a gas leak. So we're going to cover that now. We put odorant in natural gas in the distribution system part. The big major transmission lines, they're not required to put odorant in there except for the portion that runs through a municipality, a community. But we have to put odorant in everything. So you'll have that natural, that rotten egg smell, I should say. Another way of seeing a gas leak or knowing that there's a gas leak, bubbling water, blowing dirt, or dead vegetation. Again, it happens to be outside, it's underground. You spot any of those things, that's not natural, okay? What's causing that? Give us a call. We're going to come out and investigate it. A blowing or hissing sound. If you hit a big enough line that's under enough pressure, you're going to hear that blowing and hissing sound. It's kind of obvious. And again, we come out, we're going to valve it off, and we're going to make the area safe. What should I? What should I do if I suspect a gas leak? First of all, leave the area immediately, whether it's inside, whether it's outside. We don't want you to hang around and try and investigate. That's our job. Let us get there. Let us do what we do best. Call from a safe distance. Fortunately, so many of us are always operating on our cell phone now. So you can call from your cell phone and step away. If you happen to call from a landline, please don't hang up that landline phone. Remember, that could be a source of ignition. Simply set it down on the table. Set it down on the table, step out of the residence or the business, and then contact us back by way of a cell phone, or give us a cell phone number. We'll call you back. Don't activate any light switches, garage doors, car ignition. I talked about landlines. Do stay on the line with the dispatcher until such time as they say, okay, we've got somebody en route, we've got all we need, things of that nature. And they'll get the right people out there. Garage doors and car ignitions. If you've got a 1963 Corvette with a split rear window in the back, I'm sorry, just leave it in the garage, okay? We'll take care of it later. Touch a nerve there? I have a good friend that has one. Mine would be a 68 Cutlass convertible. What if I strike a natural gas line or above ground piece of equipment, such as a meter or a regulator station? Regulator station is what I was referring to when I said outside forces. We've had cars, unfortunately, go off the road and hit a regulator station. We've also had meters and home regulators get hit by bricks or something like that. We were going through the reports the other day. Sure enough, we had one of our leak calls was a bricklayer had dropped a brick and it hit the regulator portion of the residential meter and knocked it off. So things like that can hit our equipment that is above ground as well. Well, what happens if these things happen? See previous guidelines. Leave the area immediately, contact us, let us come do what we can do. Do not move or turn off any heavy equipment. A lot of experienced contractors understand. If they hit it with a backhoe, they stop right there, they dismount from the backhoe, and they leave things there until we get it turned off. And the reason is natural gas has a certain range within which it is explosive. If it's blowing hard, it might be too rich, as we talk about with the cars, too rich and not ignite. If it's too low, it's too lean, it might not ignite. But somewhere in there, it might hit just that sweet spot and it might ignite. Well, those were the three things I wanted to cover. Wanted to let you know about us and where you can find us sometimes. If you have any questions, you want to talk in person. You'll always see us at the Smyrna Easter egg hunt, which is coming up, I believe, April 1st. We're always at our Independence Day celebration. We do Halloween in the park. We've been going to our annual United Way Golf Scramble. I think that's moved to August now. One other thing is speaking engagements. I love to come talk to Lions Club, Rotary Club, senior citizens. I'll talk to a scout group if they want to hear it. We like to talk to them when they're young. So anything of that nature. And you can also learn some more about us on our municipal channel 3 with Smyrna. We have radio spots. I was at a TGA board meeting the other day, and they're actually doing some new ones now. We have a bill insert, and I've provided Mr. Richardson a copy of some of those that we passed out this past year, and that, of course, goes to the residents within Laverne. We also send mailers out to individuals that might live close to the gas system. They might not be on it, but they're close enough. We have information on our town's website also. And this is kind of cliche, but this is what I always like to finish with. If you see something, say something. One of the best things that has helped us keep our hits low is residents, contractors, construction inspectors, utility department workers, speaking up and saying, I don't think this guy is supposed to be here. And we go out and we have a nice diplomatic conversation with them, and we find out, do they or don't they have a one-call permit? And if they don't have a one-call permit, of course, we tell them you got to stop. And we've had a circumstance where a gentleman stopped, put his backhoe on his trailer, literally drove around the neighborhood. We came back 30 minutes later, he was digging again. That circumstance, we prosecuted him. There's a board called the Underground Utility Damage Prevention Board, and we took that gentleman before that board, and we were successful with our case. But we all need to protect the system, and the reason is you protect it and you protect yourselves. When a natural gas service goes out, it is not only a hindrance to that particular end user there, it affects everybody within that area. So you don't want that to happen. So, any questions?
Not so much a question, but love to get you tied in with David McGowan and Kathy Melindy for some of our city events like the Block Party, the Fall Festival, and see about having y'all come out for that as well.
We had talked about that 3 years ago, and I would love to do that. Any events that you guys, Mr. Richardson has my contact information, so please send me an email, let me know the date of the event, and we'll be there.
Wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
When you make that phone call to 811,
Yes, sir.
what's the average time response?
Every utility that is within that dig area has 72 business hours to come out and mark their utilities. So I would just be straightforward and honest. Some are better than others. You have some that are members, and they're either their staff members or their contractor that they're using is not, because a lot of the locates now are being done by contract companies. The utilities themselves have just had so many dig tickets over the last 10, 12 years, they contracted it out to other companies. And some are better than others. In our case, if you get ready to dig and we don't have our yellow lines out there for the gas, blue for water, green for sewer, if you don't see those, but you have a really strong suspicion that you're within the Smyrna distribution system, call our direct number and ask for the gas construction supervisor, and we'll come out there. And in fact, we've told contractors, we have to do some meetings with them every year. If you're unsure, the markings are an estimation. There's a 3-foot tolerance line on each side of that marking. And we've told them, if you're unsure, we are more than happy to come out there and help you with the potholing, the hand digging, whatever it is. It's a whole lot better to do that than to give us a call and say you've hit a 2-inch line and we've got 100 customers that are gonna have to be without service while it's being repaired.
And where approximately are the Laverne customers? Are they just scattered out, or are they in a certain?
I'm not a mapping specialist, but through my experience with some issues that we've had, the odor calls and leak calls, I'm going to say roughly, you know where Waldron Road is and Rock Springs Road area? I know we had an issue that we had to address in January of last year out there. We had all those residents on Waldron Road. And then, of course, if you were looking at our town by way of our divide line between our city limits, you know, Sam Ridley, through the process back in the 80s, kind of almost became a bit of the line, but a little bit beyond Sam Ridley and behind Target and all that, of course, was awarded to Laverne. So we would have an awful lot of commercial businesses, let's say north of Target. It's a good way to describe that. And we have a lot of residential customers that what I would say would be west of I-24 and then headed south toward Waldron Road.
But none over in here.
When you get past Lowry Street coming up this way, Lowry Street, and y'all eventually call it Murfreesboro Road, the number of customers diminishes a lot. Now, I do believe, I know we have an odorant station out there toward the campground. I've forgotten what the name of that road is.
Jones Mill.
What's
Jones
that?
Mill.
Jones Mill.
Yes, Jones Mill. So in the Jones Mill area, I think we do have some customers out that way, which of course, if you look at as a crow flies, that would be north of the airport. It's kind of an interesting look. Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you
Bert.
having us.
Next, we will have at the meeting Tuesday night certificates of recognition for the Laverne High School boys basketball team, just one district. We will have departmental reports.
They're playing tonight.
They are playing tonight. Then moving on to old business, second reading ordinance 2023-02, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 28 parcels 10 and 11, consisting of approximately 4.3 acres, located at 237 and 245 Cheney Boulevard, from an agricultural zoning district to a high-density residential zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on December 27th, 2022. A public hearing was held for this on February 7th. This is second reading. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 5, first reading ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning map by changing the official zoning map for a portion of tax map 18K, Group A, Parcel 6, consisting of approximately 13.63 acres located near Wheeler Street and Jefferson Pike, from a light industrial zoning district to a heavy industrial zoning district. This received an unfavorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on February 7th, 2023. We had a public hearing on it. This applicant has withdrawn the request. There is a letter in your packet from them. So the board can deny the request, or we can just notate the withdrawal so that we have the proper paperwork. Is there any questions? Number 6, second reading ordinance 2023-04, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 State Street Aid Fund budget. Again, this is second reading. This is for paving on Holland Ridge Drive and Bill Stewart. Is there any questions? Moving on to 7. Second reading ordinance 2023-05, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 general fund budget. And this is, again, second reading. Is there any questions? Bruce?
I do want to note that we have changed our recommendation on this item since We will probably not be having a planning retreat this fiscal year. Staff recommendation is now to deny this item. There's no need to amend the budget if we're not going to use the funds.
Any questions? Moving on to the consent agenda. Number 1, bid construction of Public Works and Community Development Services facility. This was, back in September, we opened bids for the Public Works and Community Development Services facility. At that point, we'd only received one bid and felt the price was high, so it was rejected. We waited a few months, put it back out to bid, see if we get more bidders. So the bid went back out in late January. On February 23rd, bids were opened up, and we did receive 2 bids. They're both higher than in September. You've got Alston Construction Company at $25,500,000 and Barron Construction LLC at $26,997,000. So the recommendation from our consultant, which is Lamb and Associates, is to award the bid to Alston Construction Company Incorporated for $25,500,000. The funding for this project will come from fund reserves in the general fund, stormwater fund, and the water sewer fund. Initially, everything will be paid out of the water sewer fund, and then we'll have reimbursement from the other 2 funds to that. Does anyone have any questions?
Have we had any dealings with this company, Kyle, or do you know?
We've not had, as far as the city, them build anything for us, but, we've not really built a lot of buildings. However, Alston is the company that has built for Panettone, so all the buildings you see in Park 24 and High Point 24 and some of Center Point was done by Alston Construction, and I know the codes department has had a lot of working with them the past several years, and they do good work. So.
All right.
I just want to make a note. I'm just a little concerned about the timing of this project. I know we've already put this on hold once before, and this is our second round of bids for this project, but just kind of looking into the future here, just kind of pending litigation and us not being exactly fully understanding of what we're looking for in the near future regarding any kind of legal matters with the city. I just don't know that I feel super confident about spending $7 million out of the general fund till we get a better concept of what the future looks like.
Any other comments?
I like to see this item pulled from the consent agenda and put on a separate line item.
Anything else? Moving on to number 2, state contract purchase. This is the Microsoft software licensing renewal. This is pretty standard. Every 3 years we renew our licensing with Microsoft. And then the impact is $95,003.35. Does anyone have any questions? Then moving on to number 3, Sourcewell contract purchase, new computers for the library. And this will replace 35 10-plus-year-old computers with new computers for our patrons. The city has applied and received a technology grant from the State of Tennessee Library and Archives, and it will reimburse 50% up to $15,174. So the new computers cost $36,106.70. We'll get reimbursed for $15,174 in grant funds, so the net of it is $20,932. And this is budgeted in this year's budget. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to B, approve amendment number 1 to the agreement with Kimley Horn for the Blair Road West Extension Project. The city entered into a professional services agreement with Kimley Horn back in November of 2020, and it was for professional services related to the Blair Road West Extension project. The total cost of the agreement was not to exceed $395,000, and then This PSA did not include any right-of-way acquisitions for the project. So the amendment adds those services to this PSA. So the total cost is $56,300. Does anyone have any questions?
Where would we get a copy of this, the general schedule from Kimley Horn?
Probably from Gary or Kyle. Moving on to C, approve change order number 2 to the Industrial Boulevard Sewer Expansion Project. And this is where we were working with, we awarded the bid to Isengard Construction Company, and they've been working on the Industrial Boulevard Sewer Expansion. The bid was approved at $1.5 million roughly. This change order is for $60,423.90. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to D, approve a client project services agreement with Huddleston Steel Engineering Services to be provided by consultant for SBA Towers versus the City of Laverne lawsuit. Evan, do you want to go into this one?
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the board, some of you may be aware there's a lawsuit in connection with a cell phone tower that is on city property out by the water department. It involves the location of an easement, of a utility easement. And so part of the proof we need to be able to present is with respect to the location of the easement and the proper use of it. And for that purpose, we need to have a third-party engineer help us with that part. So this is his contract in order to perform those services.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to number 9, new business. Resolution 2023-05, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. And so this is for the chairs that you're all sitting in right now. We've been discussing that for a while, the condition of these chairs. So that is what the items that will be surplused. So, and then we've got a seized vehicle from the police department as well. So the sales of the vehicle would go to the drug fund, and then from the chairs would go to the general fund. Does anyone have any questions? Number 10, Resolution 2023-06, a resolution to write off water department bad debts. And this is something the city must do every year. It's write off bad water debt. Looks like it's about $106,274.29. That is uncollectible. You should have that list in your packets, and you will notice that you'll see Fox beside many of them. Fox is a collections company that we use, and they have been trying to collect on this as well. And so if you do happen to know anybody going through this, feel free to patch them in with our water billing department. Any questions about that? Number 11, Resolution 2023-07, a resolution to support restoring the historic revenue sharing relationship between the state of Tennessee and its local governments, and to return the local share of the single article cap to local governments. That is a mouthful, but essentially, back whenever the state was going through a budget shortfall, they changed the distribution amounts, the percentages for sales tax, how much the city gets versus how much the state gets, and the state was getting a larger portion as a result of that. Well, times have changed as far as the economy, and they're running budget surpluses. There has been a request through TML, working with all the cities, all the counties, to request the state to restore that historic funding back to those levels. That would equal increased revenues for us. Essentially, you're looking at an increase of basically $714,000 if the state does that for our city. So this is just a resolution that, if we adopt it, would be sent up to the state and to our state representatives and our state senator. Does anyone have any questions?
So it's not guaranteed
No, it's not guaranteed. It's up to the state to decide. But we're going to send this up and at least let them know our opinion on it. Next, we have the motion to approve a real estate purchase and sale agreement with Noon Laverne Marketplace LLC to purchase the stormwater building located at 5175 Murfreesboro Road. Jamie, you're already up here. Wonderful. So this is just like it sounds. This is a sale for the stormwater building. The price is $925,000. It would include a leaseback provision, which I know we are still working on the finality of that for Tuesday's meeting. And then, Jamie, can you just kind of walk the board through what you're seeing both for this parcel and the parcel you already have under contract behind it?
Yes, sir. Again, I'm Jamie Fleeger with Noon Real Estate. My business partner and I, Kevin Jennings, specialize in bringing national junior box retail to secondary markets, predominantly across the Southeast. We've worked in communities like Hinesville, Georgia, Pooler, Georgia, Lake City, Florida, Sylacauga, Alabama, Ruston, Louisiana, et cetera. Currently, we actually have a project under construction in Pell City, Alabama, and I believe, Bruce, there's a rendering of what the buildings will look like there. We typically work with national retailers such as TJ Maxx companies, whether it's TJ Maxx or Marshalls or Home Goods, all concepts that they own, that TJX companies owns. Or we also do a lot of work with Hobby Lobby. We do a lot of work with the Ross Dress for Less, Burlington Coat Factory, Old Navy, Five Below, Rack Room Shoes, et cetera. What Bruce has put up here is a site plan that we've had prepared for this property. We do have under contract the Pirtle Estate property that is behind, between the Planet Fitness Shopping Center and the Kroger Shopping Center and behind the municipal building. So what we would visualize for the municipal build property, which is roughly 7/10 of an acre, our limitation is going to be size. Fortunately, the city is currently leasing a portion of the Pirtle property, and when that is combined with the city's property, we'll make it closer to an acre, and that will allow us to, there'll be retailers, most likely a fast food type of a user for that parcel. It's not large enough for a sit-down restaurant. Our goal would be to deliver a project that generates the absolute most sales tax revenue for the city of Laverne. I understand that you guys have experienced leakage coming from other communities. You provide the services for your citizens, but they spend their dollars in Smyrna and they spend their dollars in other local communities. Our job, if we do it right, and working together, is going to be able to bring a first-class retail shopping center where we can capture the dollars that are leaking out of your community. I'm here to answer any questions. This is our project in Pell City, Alabama. We have, Tom and I have been working for months together. We have, these projects that Kevin and I work on are, this project we started in 2018. Now, we went through COVID, so we had to re-engineer the entire project, admittedly. But we have a very strong working. The city of Pell City, unlike a mayor and alderman form of government, is a city manager form of government. So we work very closely with the city manager and the economic development director for that particular community. And those gentlemen's names have been provided to Tom, and I believe Tom has been in contact with them. We also have a really strong working relationship with pretty much every mayor and council that we worked with. I don't know that, I would highly recommend you talk to any of the folks that we worked with in the past, because again, it is a partnership. But this is the rendering for our project in Pell City. In that particular project, it's Ross, TJ Maxx, Old Navy, Ulta, Five Below, Rack Room Shoes, America's Best, Eyeglasses, PetSmart, and Hobby Lobby. And we have an out parcel that we are working with a national burger concept that's growing extensively, and we're working with an Australian-themed steakhouse for another parcel. So again, that's just the typical. We work with the Texas Longhorn group sometimes on out parcels as well. So I answer any questions you may have.
I guess one question I got is, how did we come up with the 925,000?
Well, that's not the number we started at. The number was originally a little bit less. Again, you're talking about, I look at things in a price per square foot, sir, and you're looking at about $29 a square foot. That's very expensive dirt, and I've got to go demo a building, and I'm leasing it to the city for free. Well, for $1 a month, for 12 months. So I got to carry that property in a current interest rate environment of 7.25, maybe 7.5%, depends on where we are by the time we break ground. I've got to carry $925,000 worth of property. You're roughly looking at $75,000. So that number is going to get a lot closer to $1 million as you looked at it from my lens, which is what I got to, before I can put it into commerce, what I have invested in it.
It just seemed like a whole lot cheap for Murfreesboro Road frontage. It just to me seemed like a whole lot cheap to me.
I agree with Alderman Waldron. If you think this property has the potential for all of this retail, and, I mean, why do you feel that it's not quite worth the appraisal, not matching that up?
What exactly was it? What's the current, has the current appraisal been done on the property?
There was. Bruce, was there not one in the packet, appraisal for $950 previously?
That was the last appraisal,
Right.
the last valuation on the property. If
September 21.
you combined, because as he mentioned, we're getting rent for $1 a month for a year. So if you just did the math on what the actual price of renting that facility out through them, I would lay odds that's probably $60,000 over a year if it was just $5,000.
But we wouldn't have to, we own the property, we don't have to rent it unless we sell it.
Correct.
Well, that's correct, but it also doesn't generate sales tax or property tax for the city. Doesn't, as far as add to any of the conveniences for our residents either.
I mean, this is the potential, this is the concept, right? I mean, there's no guarantee. I mean, he could sell the property tomorrow after he gets the deed. So there's really no guarantee that it will be retail. I mean, yes, that's what he's proposing, but
As
it's
high
not guaranteed.
as property's been selling for around here, the figure comes in my mind about $1.5 million. This is, they just auctioned a place off over there on Stone River Road for around $700,000, and it was on a side road. In my mind, Murfreesboro Road property ought to be worth twice that. I just can't figure out how y'all come up with $925,000.
So, you spoke with, obviously you've been working with Mr. Broker.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Broker, could you come up to the podium, please, sir? You stay right there too. I'm not ordering you, I just didn't want you to have to walk all the way over there. So, Tom knows more about economics than anybody in this room. That's what he does, that's his job. I understand the whole part about the evaluations and property and all of that. But Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm saying this wrong, but sometimes in business, you have to kind of spend money to make money. Is that a fair statement in this case? And give us your opinion about this company, this gentleman's company in business, and your opinion as far as economics.
You've asked me about 6 questions. I'll do my best. But as far as Jamie goes, in noon, when the Dairy Queen deal fell apart, he was recommended by several people to us. We did our due diligence. We did talk to some of the cities that they are working in. I think Jamie cannot confirm, Alderman Hobbs, right now what's here, and there is no guarantee. But I do think that I'm going to defer to you to how far you want to go with it, but there are some signed contracts, and that's about as far as I'm going to go as far as who it is and so on. I think some of the names may be already up there. As far as Alderman Waldron, the 925, originally I believe it was appraised around 950 when it was going to be the Dairy King Group 2 years ago. We worked very hard with that. In fact, a lot of these same retailers that we're talking about were secured during that time. To your point, where do we get with that? He's basically buying 3/4 of an acre for almost $1 million or $925,000. We've had this discussion before. What you are going to generate is upwards of $1 million or so on the back piece. Right now, we don't have that. We don't have that. Property is not on the property tax rolls as it is right now. So I'm trying to answer all the questions that you had. Yeah, we're going to spend a little bit of money, but seeing that you are voting again on moving to a public works building, $25,000 off of the appraised value. And as we know, real estate has fluctuated over the last few years. It may be $925, maybe the actual price right now, maybe more. I think you're paying for the piece behind it roughly $200,000 an acre. And I don't know how far you want me to go.
Round numbers, rounding
Okay,
up.
so for less than an acre, we're getting $1 million. And yes, it is Murfreesboro Road frontage.
Property behind it's not Murfreesboro Road frontage.
Sure, but you're talking, and again, Alderman Waldron, I think we had this same conversation 9 months ago, 10 months ago. If we are vacating that building, and again, that is y'all's decision, it is a small building, it needs major renovation to continue. I think the city stands to gain exponentially by selling that building and then having the frontage. And then, of course, what's coming behind is going to be the big money behind it. So, and again, we're talking national retailers here, which again, it wouldn't matter if it's mom and pop, but these are names that everyone in this room would know, and it's something Laverne does not have. Earlier, Jamie talked about leakage. Guys, we're losing $1 billion a year. We can't go buy apparel in this town. We can't go buy hardware in this town. This is what I believe I was hired for about 6 years ago. And this with about 2 other deals that we have going right now. I think the Laverne residents are very proud of what's happening. So,
Well, what I've seen mostly in the last few years, a gas station or fast food, I don't really think that's big enough for a gas station, so I'm taking it's probably gonna be a fast food place.
I think he made a reference to that, maybe. I don't think that's secured at this point. I do think it is important if you're going to develop the back piece to also control that front piece. And I'll defer to that to you. Would that be beneficial to have the front piece, obviously, if you have the back piece? So, I mean, you would think they would go hand in hand, especially if we're going to vacate it, if that is y'all's vote, to move us to a public works facility.
Don't get me wrong, I like hamburgers too, but it just seemed like the price of real estate you see just seemed like $925,000 for Murfreesboro Road frontage is awful cheap. To me, what kind of jumps in my head is about $1.5 million. But
I hear that, and I don't know that that's the appraised value at this point.
And based on my notes, that appraisal that I had made reference to is from September of 2021. So, I mean, I think it would be worthwhile to even get another appraisal. I mean, the market's changed significantly since that time. Whether it hurts or helps the city, either or, at least it'll be fair.
I think a part of the negotiations that we talked about is we're getting that, again, if it is y'all's choice to vacate that building and move 4 departments out of there and move to a public works building, if the price would go up, I imagine, again, not speaking for him, he's probably going to come back and say, okay, I can't do the dollar rent anymore. He's gaining nothing for that. So, I mean, let's say it's up to $975. We did move it up because I think, if I'm not mistaken, from the previous with the Dairy Queen group, I think the purchase price was $825,000 or something to that effect. We bumped it up because we knew that, you know, one of your wishes, Alderman Waldron, was that it got more towards the appraised value. We did that. But here's my question to you. What is that property generating now? And if we are vacating, what do we do? We have what appears, and I would say nothing is 100% to your point, Alderman Hobbs, but Alderwoman Hobbs. What is it generating? And what is that piece behind generating? If this deal doesn't go through, what role is economic development? We heard during the election, let's have quality retail on Murfreesboro Road. This, and along with another deal we have going right now, is bringing you that. If this is not the deal for you, what is? I mean, if we're gonna bicker over 50,000, but we're gonna lose $1 million a year in sales tax, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it just seemed like awful cheap. I own property on Murfreesboro Road, less than half that size, and I wouldn't sell mine for this price, you know, and ain't no way I can support something for the city that I wouldn't do for myself.
Well, hopefully I'll take you out for one of those hamburgers you were talking about afterwards, but.
Is there any way they'll consider a contract with restricted use of the property sold, that we would be able to guarantee that it would be retail?
I would be willing to do that for a first generation, but not beyond the first generation. In other words, the initial use, I'd be willing to agree to that. Because retail for that type of property is the highest and best use, which means they're gonna pay the most. But I can't tell you what it's gonna be 5 years from now. And I couldn't agree to that kind of limitation for the future, but I could initially.
You know, I know I'm talking through the air. You know, I can tell you exactly how the vote's gonna go. Tuesday night, it's gonna go 3-2. You know, so I'm just about blowing air. You know, it's gonna be it's a done deal. It's gonna be approved, but it's gonna be approved without my support.
So you talked about it, and I know there's been several times that we collectively know about businesses that are coming, but those businesses do not want us to say anything.
Right. That's a safe.
I understand, but a lot of people don't understand why that is. So when Tom says, or Bruce, or whoever says, we're gonna be getting such and such, but we can't say anything until that certain time, that's not got anything to do with us. It's people like you. It's your money, and you don't want it to be said. But now, Tom.
And my client.
And your clients, and I totally understand, you know, and that's why we never say anything. I know I don't, but from the way it sounds like you've already maybe got some good stuff coming if you can seal the deal and get that part of the road. And because I guess from what I'm hearing is without that building, you can't do anything else back there in order to make everything work. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir. And let me try to explain that too. And let me maybe back up. You know, as a developer, we don't like to share because sometimes it's, you know, until something's done, you don't want to overpromise and then not be able to deliver. But from the retailer's perspective, there's at least one of those names up there that will tell you that sometimes a local store may not know that what real estate's doing. And so if it comes out in the paper, as local store manager, it might, from another store, might get scared off because they don't know what that implication means to them. And that's one of the reasons why those stores don't like to make those kind of announcements. But so what's important, Bruce, do you mind if you go back to the site plan, please? Thank you. So what's important to retailers, and one of the things is view corridors, okay? So I don't really control, they want to make sure that that there's maximum visibility back into those stores back in behind there, okay? And so if you don't control the front, then you don't control, they're going to ask me they're going to try to restrict the maximum size building I can put on that property, which I'm gonna have to agree to. I'm gonna have to agree to it because I can only park so much anyway. So I'm probably gonna have to agree to somewhere around a 3,500 square foot building, maybe 4,000 square foot building on that particular property. And I'm gonna have to agree that it can only be located within some certain zone on that property. Again, the purpose of that is it does those two things limiting, and I add one other, a height limitation. Those three things help ensure those retailers in the back have the exposure that they're signing up for. If I don't control that front piece, then I can't give them that assurance, and therefore it causes them to have concerns. I don't, just to be clear, I have signed letters, they're not binding agreements, I want to be very clear about that. But I have signed letters of intent on every space, or letters of intent, not signed letters of intent. But I have letters of intent with every space back there except one. So all those retailers in the back, with the exception of one, I have a letter of intent from. And in addition to that, I have a letter of intent for one food user for the municipal building, but I can't even respond to that until we know if we have something to do or don't.
Any other questions?
And Tom, as economic development, like you said, you've been put in that position.
Quite a bit, and a lot of times,
And-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that's what you do. So just straightforward, what is your opinion about this? Not trying to tell us.
May I say something real quick? First of all, my door is open to any of y'all. I'm happy to talk to you. I'm not keeping anything from you, but there are times that we have to sign NDAs or they're asked, for discretion. You don't want to lose a deal over it slipping out, so on. Guys, as I said earlier, and if there is disagreement or people are not for this, no disrespect, and I respect, I've sat in your seat, I know you have to make a tough decision. This deal to me is every bit as big as the BJ's deal. When I say that, I'm talking about sales tax wise, or darn close. And it certainly is going to be one of a few developments that are going to give a facelift to Murfreesboro Road. And it's going to bring some major sales tax dollars. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If it is your wish to vacate that building and we're not going to use it anymore, there's not a lot of use for a building that size of that age, and so on. We need space, I get that, but in lieu of, again, upwards of $1 million or so in sales tax dollars every year, curb some of the leakage, give some of our residents some amenities and places to shop locally, to me, it's a no-brainer. But again, no disrespect if somebody disagrees with me.
Any other questions?
I just say good luck, you're getting a bargain.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, fellas.
Moving on to 13, motion to authorize the mayor to approve and execute an agreement with Ralph Anderson Associates for the recruitment services for the police chief position. This is one where our HR director has looked at multiple firms for recruitment nationwide of a new police chief. Came back, presented those to staff and myself. We went through them, and ultimately the recommendation was to go with this firm, which is Ralph Anderson and Associates. The fixed fee for the national search is $38,750. There will be some additional expenses for travel that the city will have to provide for candidates who are chosen for interviews. There's also some optional costs that we may need to go through the process that have not been determined yet. Does anyone have any questions?
And again, do we know anything about this?
That yes, we've actually got some, at least one staff member in Murfreesboro. Andrew, can you come up and just go through and talk about this company? They've done multiple searches nationwide.
Sure. Good evening. So I think a couple things are important to answer that question. One is we looked at 5 firms. How did we get those names? Those names majority of them were given to me by my peers around the state who have done searches like the one we want to do. And a couple things were important to me. One is that the primary function of the company was police searches. Some of these firms do city manager, HR director, public works director, they do more. So we wanted to make sure that we focused on one of the companies that their primary focus is police chiefs. So Ralph Anderson and Associates, that is their primary function. The representative that would work on this case with us is the former police chief of Sacramento. So a major market police chief who has, the experience not only to talk to our folks in the police department, but also to lead us through that process. There is a long list of history for this company that has been provided to us of the searches that they've completed in 22, 21, 20, 19. You can go and look at all of the searches that they have already completed with placements already done. This firm also, of the 5, A, had a recruiter with police experience. Number 2, availability to start immediately, which is what our need is. One of the 5 firms, when I came to present it to the staff, actually pulled out that same day simply because they did not have a recruiter with any police search experience. And they voluntarily said, we're just not the firm for you if we don't have the person that can support you in that search.
So they send you someone and you all sit down with them, talk to them, you decide that's not the right fit, then we go on to the next one, there's no extra charge, they get that amount of money until the right fit is found.
So the process would be that once the contract is complete and approved by y'all, there would be a marketing brochure that would be created. They would then do all of the marketing and promotion, both from a public perspective and using their database with direct phone calls to people they know are in the market for a potential move. One of the positives about our location is that Nashville is a very attractive market to people. Tennessee is an attractive market because not having state income tax. They would do a couple of things. The first step of the process is that the representative who would work with would come to the city, meet with each of you, would meet with all the directors, would learn about the profile that we want to build for the kind of person we want to lead the department. The second part of that phase is that we would host 2 community meetings that they would proctor for conversation with the community about what are they looking for in the next chief of police. Additionally to that, they would meet with each and every member of the Laverne Police Department individually to hear from them. What do they want? What is important to them in this process? That, to me, is one of the reasons why their firm went to the top. I think it's really, really important that not only does the search firm hear from you and me and the rest of the staff, but I think it's critical that each member of the police department who has walked through what we've just come through has an opportunity to say, this is what's important to me. These are men and women who show up for work every single day still under very difficult situations, and their voice is important. So when that process is finished, they will select somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 semifinalists. They will conduct interviews and screenings. Those 10 to 15 candidates would be presented to us as well for a review, and then we would cull that down to 2, 3, or 4 candidates, final candidates that we would bring to town, and we would have opportunities for staff, the public, the police department, to have some meet and greet opportunities with those finalists for us to sort of take all of the data that's received and make that determination. I explain it that way, Vice Mayor, because it's important to know, A, the search firm is not selecting the candidate. B, this is, like all director positions, a really, really critical hire, and we need to evaluate all of the data, including all of the input that we'll get from our staff, from you, from the police department members, and from the community as we make that decision.
So we vote on this Tuesday and it passes,
Yeah.
then time frame?
The time frame would be 90 to 120 days to reach the finalist category. And then at that point, it's our process of bringing them to town, setting up.
Well, not necessarily that, but.
When do we have somebody in
timeframe-
place?
No, the time frame on when this company would start.
They're ready to begin as soon as we deliver them an executed contract. I talked with them today about that. They're ready today if we were to say go.
And this motion is just for the agreement, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
The deal I got with prior history, and it finally states right here, authorize the mayor to approve. That's what I'm just not comfortable with that. I can't support this motion for that reason. For almost 4 years, I put the issue on the agenda to, about the mayor hiring and firing, and the mayor has removed it. That's telling me that the mayor is not want to work with the citizens, the employees, or this board. So, authorize the mayor to approve. I can't support with that language.
Alderman Waldron, my only comment to that would be the reason that is in there is simply if Evan and I cannot get the contract language agreed to with Ralph Anderson by Tuesday. My understanding is, and feel free to correct me if I say this incorrectly, but if we can get the contract done and on your plate by Tuesday night, you'll be approving the contract. That there would not be a necessity for that. My understanding is that is there so that we don't have to lose a month waiting on the language of the back and forth of the contract.
Which we've done before with other contracts.
Well, things come to my mind, if it takes another month to get it right, I'd rather wait to get it right than hindsight's always 20/20.
Okay.
Again, I just want to clarify, this is just for the motion for you to approve the agreement with Ralph Anderson.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's there in the actual.
To get that process started.
Yes, and
Correct.
that's in, if you look at your summary sheet, that's in the title.
Just to give me the opportunity to get the search firm going.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have boards and committee members. We've got one vacancy on the Beautification Arts and Advisory Committee. We've got 2 applicants, Daphne Baker and Alan Walker. Then moving on to the Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals, we have 1 vacancy and no applicants for that. The Historical Advisory Committee, we've got 1 vacancy and no applicants for that. The Local Emergency Planning Committee, we've got 2 vacancies for that. The recommendation is for the Police Department position to remain unfilled until we have a new chief, and then to appoint Tanya Williams to fill the Finance Department position. Last, we've got the Stormwater Appeals and Advisory Board. We've got 2 vacancies due to resignations, and we have no applicants for that board. Moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
Yes, again, check on the elderly. I know we got some funny weather, cold, rainy, stormy, hot. Check on the elderly. Make sure your pets have fresh water and shelter. And last but not least, the main reason I asked to pull the $25 million, it's a lot of money to be on a consent agenda, because when we vote on it Tuesday night, we don't discuss nothing. It's on a package deal, and I figure that's a lot of money to just not having no discussion on Tuesday night, and that's all I've got.
Alderwoman Hobbs.
Yeah, I agree with Dennis, Alderman Waldron on the line agenda for the bid for the Public Works building. I absolutely agree with that. In addition, just the Laverne Rescue Unit, their Country Ham Breakfast will be on March 11th, fundraiser for them. So appreciate you come out in the morning and have breakfast with us.
Alderwoman Haas.
I'm going to be a broken record on the baseball and softball league. They decided to extend in-person signups to this weekend, and this will be the last weekend. It'll be Sunday from 1 to 3. Also, they're doing online signups, and then the next weekend, March 11th, March 12th, on Sunday. They will do the draft, and players, I think 9 and 10-year-olds, I think will get out and show their skills, and then the coaches for those age groups will pick their teams, and then the T-ball and younger than 9, they will be assigned teams, and then we will get our spring 2023 baseball season started. So please go to the site, sign up. There have been many social media posts about it, and we want to have a successful spring baseball softball league. Thank you.
Vice Mayor No.
Yes, I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Glenn over there. I forgot my reading glasses, and he's been blowing that thing up. Y'all probably didn't even notice it, so I could sit here and read it. That's all I got.
Well, want to remind everybody that this Saturday, March 4th, 11 to 1 a.m., this is in Smyrna. The Smyrna High School is having a drive-through fundraiser. The young woman who was sadly hit and lost her legs, they're having a drive-through. Simply show up, drop off any donation to support the family. It all goes directly to the family, so please remember that. And then everyone, please be careful. We've got some major storms coming in. I believe the news report right before the meeting started was around 6 a.m. we could see winds up to 60 miles per hour. So please, everyone, use caution. With that, call this meeting adjourned.